Welcome to Film Summary channel. Today we're recapping an action-packed action horror movie from 2021 titled Blood Red Sky. Warning: spoilers ahead. An RAF airbase in Scotland is preparing for the arrival of a transatlantic flight that's been hijacked. Colonel Drummond has been brought in to handle the crisis, and upon landing, an officer briefs him that they're assuming both the pilot and co-pilot are dead. As Drummond steps into the control room, one officer tries to establish communication with the plane, guiding it on how to land while another keeps an eye on its approach. The plane lands a bit roughly, and Drummond quickly asks his team for a visual before communicating with the aircraft, inquiring about the onboard situation. Suddenly, there's movement near one of the doors. A parachute is tossed out, and the soldiers spot a young boy climbing down. Two RAF trucks, following Drummond's orders, rush over to retrieve him. They notice a new figure in the cockpit, and Drummond contacts him, warning him that any sudden move will result in gunfire. He tells the man to get into the pilot's seat and slowly raise his hands. The man pleads to be let off the plane, insisting he's not a terrorist and wants to explain everything. Later, Drummond sends a translator to speak with the boy, Elias, who's being checked by a doctor. But the boy, in shock, reveals nothing. We flash back to the day before inside a hotel room where Elias's mother, Nadia, is in the bathroom preparing for their trip. She later talks to her doctor in New York, where she's headed with Elias for treatment of a strange illness. Elias calls his mother to say he's checked their bags. Nadia arrives at the airport at night, greets her son, and they pass through security. At the waiting area, she leaves Elias to go to the restroom, where she prepares a syringe and injects her medication. In the meantime, Farid is on the phone when Elias starts chatting with him. They have a pleasant exchange, and Farid asks where Elias's mom is. Soon, Nadia returns, and they board the plane and settle into their seats. Meanwhile, a lead flight attendant walks into the cockpit to offer coffee to the pilot and co-pilot Bastian. She then heads to the flight attendant's station and asks a crew member named 8-Ball to deal with a sexist passenger in first class. The flight takes off from Germany. Bound for the US hours later, Nadia comes back from the bathroom, writes in her notebook, and finds a picture of herself and her late husband. A series of flashbacks unfolds, showing a happy moment that turns grim. They're stranded on the road with their baby. Her husband goes to look for help, leaving Nadia behind with their child. Back in the present, Nadia notices a disturbance near the front of the plane. 8-Ball is confronting an aggressive passenger. One air marshal steps in, and then another joins him. As they try to manage the passenger, 8-Ball suddenly pulls out a knife and stabs the second marshal. The passenger subdues the first one. 8-Ball asks where the third air marshal is and sends someone to deal with her. Curtis kills her, takes her weapon, and hands it to Berg. Upon his return, 8-Ball brutally slaughters the remaining marshal, horrifying Carl. 8-Ball then addresses the passengers, telling them to remain seated while tossing a gun into the crowd. His accomplices join him, forcing everyone to the back of the aircraft. Berg heads to the cockpit, knocks, Bastian opens the door and reveals he has killed the pilot. They dispose of his body through a hatch, and Berg announces to the passengers that the plane has been hijacked, ordering them to place their hands on the seat in front. Yuri finds and reprograms the black box, informing Berg. Bastian changes the flight's course. Elias, worried about his mother, consults the plane's schematics and advises her on a spot to hide from sunlight. Elias escapes his seat. Nadia goes after him, but 8-Ball intercepts her and shoots her in front of Elias. Carl grabs the boy and forces him back into his seat, urging him to stay put. Berg confronts 8-Ball, warning him not to act out again, though he still uses Nadia's shooting as a threat to the passengers. In another flashback, Nadia is still in the car with her baby, waiting for her husband. She eventually ventures into the woods and finds an abandoned cabin, hoping he's there. Inside, she discovers blood and follows it to the basement where a vampire suddenly attacks. She locks herself in, only to find her husband dead. The vampire tries to enter through a window. She fights but gets bitten in the process. Then the vampire dies from sunlight exposure. Nadia wakes up on the plane, alive. She hears barking from the cargo hold and drops down. Meanwhile, Berg forces Farid and others to read a scripted terrorist statement. In the hold, Nadia hides under a car while Curtis and Yuri collect materials to build a bomb. As Yuri sets it up, Nadja feeds on one of the dogs. The dog's noises alert Yuri, who finds and attacks Nadja only to be killed. Simultaneously, Farid returns to Elias and sits with him. Nadia, rapidly transforming into a vampire, prepares to inject more of her medicine, but then hears Berg calling Yuri. She drinks more of Yuri's blood to speed up her transformation and heads back to the passenger cabin. The hijackers threaten passengers with fake nerve gas claims and head to the hold, where they find Yuri's body next to the dog. Nadja had staged the scene to appear as though the dog killed him. Nadja reaches Elias, terrifying the passengers. They go to the cockpit and discover it's empty. She returns to the cabin asking if anyone knows how to fly a plane. One man volunteers, and they head to the cockpit, locking the door. In the cockpit, the new pilot notes they're on autopilot. Nadia spots the hijackers prepping to jump and tells him to wait before switching off autopilot. 8-Ball, realizing she's alive, returns to the plane with Berg. A passenger reveals her location, prompting them to confront her. Nadia orders the pilot to turn the plane back toward the USA. He hesitates but follows orders out of fear. Then Berg, enraged, kills a passenger and threatens more deaths unless the cockpit door is opened. He gets 8-Ball to bring another hostage. The psychopath brings a little girl. As Berg prepares to kill the girl, Nadia bursts out, biting his neck. Bastian and the others are horrified. The new pilot quickly locks the door behind her. Nadia finishes off Berg and pursues the others. When Berg starts to turn, she returns to finish him off. 8-Ball watches everything unfold. Nadia tells Elias to stay behind the door, enters a lavatory and observes how far her transformation has gone and injects herself with her medicine. Meanwhile, 8-Ball finds her belongings and reads from her journal, revealing her vampire nature to the crew. 8-Ball unveils a UV light weapon to hurt Nadia. 8-Ball arms himself with a stake as the others argue. Carl convinces Bastian that their only chance is to get back in the cockpit and get the plane back on course. When Elias sees them coming, he sneaks out to retrieve his mom from the bathroom, dragging her back. The hijackers get close, forcing the new pilot to lock himself inside the cockpit. Nadia approaches 8-Ball, who burns her with UV light, causing her to collapse. He draws her blood into a syringe, but before staking her, Elias appears with a gun. As 8-Ball moves toward him, the gun discharges, causing the window to blow out and depressurize the cabin. Bastian warns they have just 10 minutes of oxygen and must descend. Nadia gets Elias a mask, takes the gun and shoots at 8-Ball, forcing him to flee. The new pilot passes out because he can't hold the door and get to a mask at the same time, letting the hijackers re-enter the cockpit. Nadia brings Elias to the passengers and hands him to Farid. The plane begins to lose altitude. She confronts 8-Ball, who's inside a bulletproof vehicle, and injects himself with her blood. Nadia sets the car on fire to kill him and prevent the spread of the curse. The hijackers notice the fire, but Nadia has it under control before they reach the hold. The hijackers reach the hold and shoot at Nadia, and the passengers freak out, so they run towards the front of the plane, including Farid, carrying Elias. The hijackers find 8-Ball in the car alive when he suddenly attacks Curtis and drinks his blood, then gets out and goes after the others. Nadia locks the door to the hold and hears Elias yelling after her that the passengers want to kill her. Farid yells that they wouldn't harm her, but one man shoots at her. She retaliates but spares Farid after Elias begs her not to hurt him. Hearing the vampires below, Nadia rushes to contain them. Farid assists but is bitten by 8-Ball, who is shot. Nadia severs Farid's hand to halt the infection. Nadia manages to fend off Curtis and 8-Ball, who have now fully turned as they try to get into the plane from below. After that, she goes back to the passengers and finds Bastian, while Farid reassures them that she's on their side. Nadia takes him back to the cockpit, where he tells her that they have to find the nearest airport to land, because they are running low on fuel. Farid and Elias convince her to go below the cockpit, where it's dark, as he stays behind with Bastian. One of the hurt passengers decides to go down to the vampires because he's dying and releases 8-Ball, asking to be bitten. 8-Ball just storms past him and attacks the other passengers. Nadia and Farid see that the airplane has turned into complete chaos as the other passengers flock to the cockpit doors, trying to get in. But Bastian refuses to open the cockpit doors. Nadia, Farid, Elias, and the others plan to land and destroy the plane before the vampires get out. Farid thinks that they should land the plane and then blow it up remotely, so they go to the fuel tank to set up the explosive and realize that they have a detonator, but no timer. Nadia volunteers to blow up the plane manually when all of them get out of the plane and explains to Elias that it must be done. The boy refuses to abandon her and goes searching for the hijacker's timer with a UV light. He finds it, but is attacked. Nadia, seeing this, asks Bastian about the autopilot. Learning it's engaged, she feeds on Bastian, ensuring her full transformation, and makes Farid promise to protect Elias. As vampires chase Elias, Nadia arrives and fights 8-Ball. Elias opens the hold, helping his mom eject 8-Ball. Farid turns the plane, exposing 8-Ball to sunlight, killing him. Elias offers his blood to Nadia, who nearly loses control but pulls away and hides in the hold. At the RAF base, Elias pleads with the translator to save Farid, but she accuses him of being one of the bad guys. Elias warns them of the vampires. Drummond resumes command as soldiers move in, unaware of the danger inside. Elias sedates the paramedic, jumps out of the vehicle, and races toward the plane. Soldiers are attacked. Elias reaches the aircraft and sees what's become of his mother. Realizing she's gone, he blows up the plane. In the wreckage, Farid finds Elias, and they embrace. Don't forget to subscribe and enable notifications to catch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.